What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd podcast. Just won a series against the hottest team in baseball. Go figure. The Seattle Mariners could not take the series from the New York Mets. 2 out of 3 games we take it. Ronny Mauricio debut. Brett Baty back up. We're playing September baseball. It feels a little bit different than last year, but still September is here. We're playing baseball. You guys know the drill. Make sure you're following us on all our social media at Mets'd on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Subscribe to the New York Mets YouTube channel so you can see the video version of this. And if you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Odyssey, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. Back home for this one here, James, a little remote episode. How we doing? How we feeling?
Doing good, feeling better. This Mets-Mariners series is kind of funny because there were a few times during this weekend where we went back and we talked about the last time the Mariners visited the Mets, and that was last year in May, the famous series where where Patrick Megill had the home run off of Andres Munoz, and you said that you'd have to name your firstborn son Patrick if you would do that. Firstborn, yeah. Second's Albert. I forgot about Albert because of Albert Pujols' 700th home run when you were there. And I remember Darren from the 7 line. He put you on TikTok with the Curb Your Enthusiasm music. And thinking back to that last year, just again to like paint the differences of these seasons, that was weirdly, I believe, the first time all year the Mets actually had lost a series, or at least lost a series at home. And now this year, the Mets have had not the best season and a little bit worse of a second half. While the Mariners have been the hottest team in baseball, they won 14 out of 17 just entering the game on Sunday, and the Mets take a series from them. So that's just baseball, Susan. It's kind of funny to think about where these teams are, where they were, and where they're going.
Yeah, Mets are playing spoiler a little bit. I know we didn't take the series from the Rangers, but like even taking one from them kind of messed them up a little bit, and they haven't really been playing good baseball. I think they've lost 2 to the Twins, right? I think they've lost 2 in a row, and I don't know what's going on Sunday. But right now, the AL West, the Mariners are still in first place by half a game. But the Mets taking these wins. I mean, the Astros have been playing terribly against the Yankees. The Rangers haven't been playing well. The Mariners kind of getting a little lucky too as well.
Yeah, and it is funny also because think about that. Like we played the series against the Rangers earlier this week. The Rangers have been one of the coldest teams, not just in the American League, but all of baseball for the last few weeks. They've been struggling to win games. And that series is the one we get close and they beat us. Now this one, the Mariners, it's funny. Baseball's funny. September is like this is the month where kind of anything can happen as the month does turn. And it's just a weird season, gets weirder and weirder and weirder. But what are you looking at?
My neighbors are I'm jumping up and down. They got to be jumping off the couch right now. I got to go up there and I think talk to them today and just be like, hey, knock. I can hear everything that's going on upstairs, and it's not like just like a little walk-in. It's like jumping and running, a little dribbling basketball every once in a while, shooting hoops. I don't know what it is, but it's tough to sleep.
Yeah, personal saga for Mark, who is a nocturnal creature. His neighbors upstairs make a ton of noise, especially early on in the morning. So he's been dealing with that. Just a little sideshow for the podcast. But exciting things are happening in the Mets world on Friday as they called up Ronny Mauricio to make his major league debut during just for September call-ups, along with Brett Baty, as Mark said, being recalled, and Jose Budo coming back up to the club. So a lot of people were in attendance on Friday. Wayne Randazzo and Daltrell Willis were there for the Apple Music game. Said hi to Sarah Langs hanging out down by the field. A lot of a huge contingency of writers and media people all trying to get a piece of Ronnie for his first career game. We got there and saw batting practice, saw him hitting just ropes over the fence from both sides of the plate. Also saw Brett Baty because he always takes the most impressive batting practices on earth. Ronnie also just wearing these super crispy, clean, pink New Balance cleats for his debut as well. Just good look, swagged out, and he came up really ready to play right away.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the first at bat of Ronny Mauricio's career, he not only gets a hit, but he gets a double, 117.3 miles per hour, the hardest hit ball by a Met this season, hardest hit ball since 2021 by a Met, which is kind of crazy. And only 4 Mets have hit a ball at least 150 miles an hour since 2018. James told me to guess this one. Yeah. So I know that Alonso and Mauricio are going to be 2 of them. Mm-hmm. The other guesses, I mean, I'm going to go with, did James McCann?
Nope.
Not Tommy Pham?
Nope. If it was Tommy Pham, what happened this year? And this was the hardest hit ball this year.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, this 115. But it was 117. Yeah, no, you're right. But I asked you to guess this because it's 2 guys who, one of them should be obvious, but it's going to be hard to guess. And one of them is going to be so impossible to guess that it's like not even funny.
Was Ryan Cordell on here? Your boy?
I wish. God, I miss Ryan Cordell.
Okay, I'm going to take 2 more guesses. Francisco Alvarez, was he one of them?
He was not one of them.
Wow, and I'm missing? Who could this be?
One's really obvious.
Like in the text,
you're gonna be really upset you don't get it. The other one is not really obvious. It's gonna be really funny when I tell you.
Let's go with DJ Stewart.
No. Yeah, think.
Okay, who is it?
Think back a few years ago. I extended this 2018. That's why I'm asking you.
A few years ago. Cespedes, was he one of them?
He's one of them. Yes, that's the obvious one.
Nice. Okay.
And
And then the
I'll give
not
you
so
one more
hard one.
guess for
Just
the weird one.
one more guess. I'm gonna go with Aaron Altair.
It's not Aaron Altair. We were looking for Carlos Gomez in
Whoa,
2018.
Carlos Gomez.
Yeah,
Similar time though as Aaron Altair. So
exactly.
there's a
Yeah,
little crossover there.
same vibe. I'm back on Baseball Savant right now because I want to get the date it was because I want to say it was that early season home run he hit against the Nationals. That was like that was like an epic moment. But I'm checking back right now.
Yeah. I mean, speaking on Ronnie's hit though, the ball jumped off the bat. We were sitting in left field. And when he hit it, me and you both like looked at each other and screamed like holy and then profanity. It was noticeably hit harder. 117 like smacked each other. At that point in time, that was harder than Ronald Acuna or Aaron Judge had hit a ball this season. Acuna last night hit 121, so that was quickly dispelled and taken away. But I mean, just impressive what Ronny Mauricio can do from a sheer strength standpoint.
Yeah, and you even kind of saw it, like how hard he hit the ball, the trajectory being so obscure. It kind of baffled Teoscar Hernandez trying to field the ball in right field, where he kind of like took a half a step in and then he just froze because like that thing's coming really, really hard and hit the wall with like a very special thump that you don't really hear very often for balls off the wall. And also, you said it was the hardest hit ball by a Met this year. That is true. This is the hardest hit ball by a Met since August 19th, 2021. So we're going back two full years since a Met has hit a ball at least 117.3 miles an hour. And you kind of see the physical tools on display for Ronny Mauricio, and you do kind of see why he was such a heralded international free agent, why he was such a heralded prospect when he first came up, why he's had so much buzz around him for the last year plus as he's really gotten himself back on track in the upper minors. And it's just oozing with potential. There's so much here that could happen. He's such a lanky, tall, talented, strong ball of clay that could probably become a pretty feared power hitter if things go well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about his series a little bit more as we go on, but he looks very ready. He looked very calm. It didn't look like the moment was too big for him. Sometimes these guys get called up. They get a little like in their head. You're in New York playing in for a big team. There's a lot that could be going on that just makes it feel a little bit more like there's more pressure. But Ronny Mauricio seemed calm, confident. He got to second base. He took his helmet off before he even touched the base, put his arms up. I think he blew a kiss to his family, started pointing to the Mets on the shirt. Like, Electric City. The fans in the ballpark were super excited. And the Ronny Mauricio debut, it's finally happened. He's here, and I can't imagine he's going anywhere anytime soon.
No, it doesn't feel like that. There was also a cool moment in that bat that got him to the 117 mile an hour double that was, I think, almost, I'm not going to say it's more impressive because having at the time the 11th hardest hit ball in all of baseball is like incredibly impressive. Not much you could do before in that bat will do anything for you, but it was just the fact that Mauricio, the kind of wart against him, and the thing is he struggles apparently with, and the data backs up for the minor league, is swing decisions, being able to identify pitches out of the strike zone and lay off them. And he was facing Logan Gilbert, who has two really good breaking balls and a good fastball. He's a really good pitcher, someone who has really ascended to being a clean, like top 30, top 35 pitcher in all of baseball as you get ready for your rankings in a few months. But Gilbert started him off a nod to the rookie who has a lot of talent with a slider, right? Like just dropped it over the middle for a called strike. And then he dropped a curveball below the knees that Ronny ended up taking. This was 1-1. And then he threw a slider low and inside in the strike zone that Ronny took a big hack on. He whiffed on it. So then now the pitcher, I'm not going to say Logan Gilbert's a veteran, but I think this is his third or fourth year in the league. So he's becoming a veteran, much more veteran than Ronny Mauricio, is up 1-2 on a hitter in this first at-bat, his entire major league career, playing in New York in front of the home crowd with a lot of hype around him. And after he threw him a slider that he swung and missed on inside the zone, he dropped one about 3 or 4 inches lower. It's still low and inside, but below the knees. And Ronny took like a little jolt at it, and he stopped and he laid off. And then that got him the 2-2 pitch that he hit for the double up the gap. And I think that is a critical moment for Ronny Mauricio to be able to take a deep breath, understand the situation more than the moment, and take a tough pitch and then do his damage. And then later in the game, he hit another 100-mile-an-hour single.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about a lot on the podcast throughout the season about like what could be keeping Ronny Mauricio down, what he has to work on, right? And a lot of it was swing decision, patience, just plate discipline in general. One thing he doesn't really do that much is strikeout. His strikeout rates dropped this season, which was always great. But he's probably never going to be a guy that walked. And we even saw it in game 3 where he had a 3-0 count and he took a hack. He took a hack, put the ball in play, hit it hard. But I don't even think like it's as much as like Ronny Mauricio can't walk like Javier Baez a little bit, where Javier Baez has like some horrible swing decisions, chases the worst pitches in the world, looks disinterested at times at the plate. I think it's Ronny's just uber aggressive and kind of just jumps on pitches. If you make a mistake, it seems like he's going to try his best to make you pay for it which would lead to maybe why he's not as patient. Because what we've seen, obviously there's going to be times where you chase balls out of the zone, but I've been impressed so far with his plate discipline.
Yeah, and the thing about Ronnie is that I think the hit tool is probably a little underrated just because there was always so much swing and miss in his game. It's kind of like a battle going on in the scouting and data world right now between whether a guy's a good hit tool just because they put the bat in the ball a lot and spray it a lot, or whether they have a good hit tool based on just how much damage they can do on pitches inside the zone compared to laying off pitches outside the zone. I think that does still remain to be seen with Ronnie. He's going to get a steady diet of breaking balls. There's no doubt about it. And we're going to see a lot of that, even just the first two games, because Savant hasn't updated for Sunday's game yet. He got 45% breaking balls and only 35% fastballs, which is a little bit twisted off the season, the league averages. But there's just, again, there's so much fun to be had here with Ronny Mauricio's profile. I think a lot that can happen. I really hope he gets an extended run over these next few weeks and we can see everything that happens. Because he also looked pretty good in the infield. He spun a couple double plays. Yeah. We're going to talk about it from Sunday, but him and Francisco Lindor turned a really great double play when Tylor Megill was in trouble and Julio Rodriguez. And you could just see that he has that, that shortstop's arm at second base and just how big he is. He took a twist and just threw a seed to Pete Alonso at first base. Just came in hot, and so many physical tools here. Like, baseball's one thing, but when you get a guy who, like, again, looks like an NFL wide receiver out there, like, you're salivating thinking about the potential.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is watching the Mets game going, man, I'd like to throw it to him across the middle. He gets some yards.
As long as he can learn the playbook. Aaron Rodgers needs to trust his receivers. We know that. But other highlight of Friday's game, because it turned out to be a real tightly contested one, a pitcher's duel, and that's because Kodai Senga was completely lights out for the Mets again, turning into an ace before our very eyes. Set the tone early in the game where he gave J.P. Crawford fastball, goes for, struck him out in 3 pitches. J.P. would get him for a home run next at bat, and they did have a pretty big series here, but just felt that early on that Kodai Senga would have it. His control command wavered a little bit, especially with his fastball in the middle innings, but it still never even got close to causing a problem for him. Wound up going 7 innings, 5 hits, only 1 earned run on that J.P. Crawford solo home run, 2 walks, 12 strikeouts. 12 strikeouts tied his career high, 3rd time he's done that this season, and that's now back-to-back games for Kodai with double-digit strikeouts.
And what's funny, too, is watching this in the ballpark, there were like times where we're like, oh, man, he's just not as sharp as he has been in the past. Like, something just feels like it's a tiny little bit off. And then you look at the box score at the end of the day, you're like, oh, we thought he was off, and he struck out 12 and gave up 5 hits and 1 earned run against one of the hottest teams in baseball. Like, he's just been everything and better. And we got to speak to him last week when we did the DJ Stewart interview, which you guys can see on YouTube and on our podcast feed. The Kodai Senga one should be coming out, I assume, at some point this upcoming week. But just being able to talk with him about like the adjustments he's made and how he's been feeling about New York. I mean, the guy is comfortable, and it seems like he's really starting to figure things out and like understand what it takes to be a great pitcher in the major leagues.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you guys hear me say it every episode, but that big adjustment was him turning to this cutter and using it a lot more. This was the least he'd thrown it in about a month and a half. It's kind of get away from it. And you guys will hear that in the interview, him talking about when he's using that cutter more and when he's using it less. But that pitch up top with his fastball and his goes forward, the 3-headed monster, has just completely changed him as a pitcher. His walk rate's fallen. His K rate's gone up. He hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in 2.5 months, which is just an insane thing to think about since he faced the Cardinals, which I say every single time. He still hasn't done more than that. It's also now 5 straight starts with Kodai completing at least 6 innings, which is something that we thought was going to be the biggest hurdle for him to climb at the beginning of the year, and now he's doing it regularly. He's down to the 6th lowest earned run average in baseball, the 6th highest strikeout rate in baseball. It's becoming a little ridiculous how good he is.
Yeah, no, he's great. 100%. Like, he's going to get some Cy Young votes. Kodace, love to have him on the Mets. And then kind of just putting a little bow tie on this one, Brandon Nimmo, home run, 20th home run of the season, 5 home runs in his last, I think, like 18 or 20 games. He's really been swinging the bat well, especially against the Mariners, had a nice series. And then Vogie, the guy, the man. I mean, he's been great ever since that mental health break. We said it every episode pretty much since then because he has been good. He's been noteworthy to talk about. Go ahead, single, scoring Lindor. Just good stuff. All around good win for the Mets. The kind of thing that, like, I'm sure a lot of us Mets fans saw were like, man, like, if the record was a little bit different, like, this win would have made even more sense of just, like, September baseball, playing the Mariners, big game, and the Mets were just better.
And it was genuinely just a fun night in the ballpark. Like, it was a big crowd there. I think a lot of it just because holiday weekend, last Friday before school starts for all the kids out there. And Ronnie's debut, really nice weather. It was a good vibe, black jerseys. People were into it. It was a very fun night to be at the ballpark. Also, shout out listener Emily. Hung out with her for the last few innings. Longtime listener of the show. Great friend. Someone who's made us laugh a couple of times.
Yeah, a few times for sure. Game 1 was great. Moving on to game 2, of course, this was not the one that they ended up winning. We were also a little probably more focused on college football as it was opening weekend. James had a big game, Ohio State versus Indiana. And as you guys know, him and John made a side bet. John is not here because he was working today. He was at Citi Field. So we don't know if he's going to be joining us or not. But Ohio State versus Indiana, James and John made a little bet, a little friendly bet for the podcast. And it was what, minus 30.5 for Ohio State, right, James?
Yep.
Minus 30.5. Ohio State had to cover. Whoever loses the bet, because of course John's an Indiana guy, James is a Buckeye. Whoever loses the bet has to do a wet podcast the next time we are in person. And James, what was the final score of that game?
Buckeyes only won by 20 points. And again, since we know how much you guys hate when we talk about college football, I'm going to start the timer right now. 2 minutes to talk about college football. So you guys can just hammer that 15-second button if you want. But Ohio State looked like trash in this opening week against Indiana. It was terrible. A few Buckeye listeners out there are gonna be appreciating this segment. Shout out Sam. But it was just terrible. It was a terrible game. Ohio State has no quarterback play. It feels like a mid-major now. We're on the same level as these schools like Penn State and Notre Dame, who have been mid-majors for a very long time, Texas, these other mid-majors in the country. And it's a shame. It's a real shame because it looks like it's going to be a bad season for the Buckeyes, first in a long time. It's also so bittersweet that Ohio State extended a nation-high 29-game winning streak over Indiana. Hasn't lost Indiana in since the 1990s, and it's still they couldn't cover, so I still have to lose this bet to John. I'm going to have to go take a full shower in the stadium before the podcast. It's going to be so terrible next Thursday after the Diamondbacks series. And, Ohio State, Trevion Henderson looked like he was running in mud. Kyle McCord was inaccurate. He couldn't push the ball down the field. He didn't look confident. Devin Brown, who apparently was going to split time, barely even got to throw. When he did get a throw, he looked incredibly unimpressive and small. And he was wearing number 33. I know a lot of you guys aren't Ohio State fans, but if you're a fan of any football team at any level ever, high school, Pop Warner, NFL, college, you see a guy take the snap as number 33, you're like, that's not a quarterback. What's he doing taking the snap? Is that a fullback? No. Is that a linebacker? Is that a backup receiver? Is that a guy in the practice squad? I don't know what it is. So really disappointing Saturday, even though, James shut up, Ohio State won by 20. You're talking about how disappointing it was.
Yeah, that's kind of where I want to go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's just, it sucks that, you're a team that was milliseconds away from winning a national championship, and now you're a team that's going to be stuck with the mid-majors like Penn State and Notre Dame.
Yeah, no, you'll be playing in an insignificant bowl game, really, with me and South Carolina as well, because losing to North Carolina first, not easy. What do we got on that timer, by the way? How much can I talk about the Gamecocks here?
19 seconds left.
19 seconds. Offensive line, defensive line did not show up. Spencer Rattler looked great. Shane Beamer's still my coach, but stunk to lose that one, especially against the fake Carolina, which is the North Carolina Tar Heels. We all know the real Carolina's in the South.
Beautiful.
That was good timing.
Great job. And that's our 2 minutes talking about college football. We're going to set that timer every episode now because we know how much you guys hate it, but we still want to talk about it because we're going to be watching a lot of it. But game 2 against the Mariners, we had, 2 TVs going. We're watching South Carolina and the Mets at the same time. Shout out the Roebling Sports Club. Great spot to watch sports in Brooklyn.
Yes.
David Peterson. Another very David Peterson start. It's the only way you can describe these from now on because it's just
so weird.
I've paid attention to a lot of other baseball, but I don't really see any other pitcher doing what David Peterson does every time out, where he misses so many bats and has moments where it looks like guys cannot touch him, but then it gets really inefficient and guys just start teeing off on him or gives up walks. This game, no walks on him, but a few long balls. Teoscar Hernandez hit one, and something that was cool in this game, just looking for the little adjustments that David Peterson's making as we move along here this season, getting his extended run. Different changeup this time out. A little bit harder, and it was moving a lot more. 4 more inches of drop and 2 more inches of fade on it than the season averages. And it got a lot more whiffs in this game. And his slider also looked very good. Threw that one harder as well and a little bit tighter, but still with some drop. So interesting. 4 innings pitched, 4 earned runs is not a start that you're going to be writing home about, but just trying to look inside of what he's doing and seeing the little adjustments that are happening.
I think we were talking about it at the bar. We were like, how does he even get the whiffs though and get hit like that? It's just so not linear at all. Cause usually you get swings and misses, you don't get hit. He's doing the swing and miss thing, but getting hit, very difficult to kind of decipher what's exactly going on there. But I'll take the positives there. Swing and miss stuff, there's always something to work with. It's hard to teach someone to make you miss bats. He's doing that at least. Yeah,
it's a conundrum for sure. And I look back at the Stuff Plus model, Sarah's a Stuff Plus model on Fangraphs, and his slider had the best rating it had in any start this season, and the changeup was moving up as well, and the sinker was moving up as well. Also had an extra inch of fade on it. So I don't know. Don't know what the change was, but just seeing some little things happening is something to keep an eye on.
Before we talk about the offense, how about a little Sean Reed-Foley love, too? We've been talking about him the last few episodes. Just looks like he might be a pretty good arm in this bullpen. We talk about getting creative with relievers and getting guys out here who got a little gas, a little heat, a little fire under their, in their heart. Sean Reed-Foley's got that. He comes out screaming every single time. He's a little crazy, but he's looked great so far.
Yeah, worst case scenario, Sean Reed-Foley thinks he's the best player in the field at all times. I like that energy. As a reliever, you
Yes.
kind of need that little bit of dog in you, that kind of craziness to stay hot every single outing. But he hasn't given up a run in 5 innings pitched since he came back up, and he's striking out nearly 50% of the hitters he's facing. And I just talked about Stuff Plus. Again, it's a free model. It's on Fangraphs. It kind of gives you a score for every single pitcher. Driveline has their own. Some other people who do pitch modeling have their own, and Fangraphs comes from Saris, who's writer for The Athletic. Sean Reed-Foley's fastball, slider, and changeup are all well above average by Stuff Plus. He's become, based on Stuff Plus, one of the Mets' best relievers this entire season. And he's also throwing a home run an hour harder than he ever has in his career. So looks like there might be something with Sean Reed-Foley. And it's funny talking about this guy 2 years later, but it's like he's back and there is something here and he's still under contract.
Yeah, he will be a Met. He's under contract with the Mets until 2027, the 2027 offseason. So there's a lot of control over him. Looking for the future bullpen arms here. I think Sean Reed-Foley is probably going to be sticking around for a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And then back to the offense. Said it out loud. I was like, oh, Luis Castillo, Mets are going to really struggle to hit him. And Mark was like, no, the Mets are definitely going to hit Castillo today. And the Mets smacked Luis Castillo around for one of his worst starts of literally the entire season. The Mariners did get onto a lead early. Like I said before, they got 4 runs off of Peterson. But DJ Stewart, the man, the myth, the legend, hit a big 3-run home run in the 4th, tied the game. He's got the 5th highest WRC plus in baseball since August 1st. He's only behind Julio Rodriguez, Mookie Betts, Bryce Harper, and Marcell Ozuna.
I was watching a video by a YouTuber called And That's Baseball the other day, and he was talking about Linsanity runs in baseball. So you have like Yermin Mercedes had a crazy one. Matt Shoemaker had like a crazy little stretch where he was like a dominant pitcher. Even David Freeze's like World Series run, which was incredible. Like the Linsanity runs in baseball. DJ Stewart's on a little bit of a Linsanity run here since August 15th. Like 2 weeks, he's been one of the best hitters in all baseball.
That Matt Shoemaker April run, I'll never forget that. And then he immediately got hurt right after that. I was like, wow, Matt Shoemaker's throwing 97 miles an hour. Grabbed him in every fantasy team. I felt like the smartest guy in the world. And I was like, oh, Matt Shoemaker blew out his arm. That stinks. But yeah, that's a good bit. I like that YouTube video. But DJ Stewart definitely is on one of those right now. This Linsanity run has already taken him to a higher F WAR than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on the entire season, which is something that we can hang our hats on because Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is supposed to be one of the best, like basically players in baseball, and DJ Stewart's been more valuable than him in a month, and he's been all season. There's not that many hitters hitting better than DJ Stewart right now. It got to the point where on Sunday, the Mariners are making pitching changes, so lefties come in to face DJ Stewart because of how much of a power hitter he is. And hopefully you guys listen to our interview with him. If not, go back and check it out because DJ Stewart is like basically a bit of a Forrest Gump in terms of baseball and sports stories in general. Knew Derrick Henry growing up, beat him in high school football, college teammates with Jameis Winston, told some stories about him. Also played AAU ball with Hayden Hurst before he also switched to football full time. Played with Buck Showalter in the Orioles before coming over to the Mets now. Just had a baby. He's had some great stories about that. He's a deer hunter. Him and his wife deer hunt together. The guy is super interesting. Really good interview with DJ Stewart. So go back and check that out.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, like Castillo, like weirdly, I'm looking at his career stats now, has struggled against the Mets in his career. He's made 4 starts, 24 innings. He has a 4.4 ERA with a whip at like 1.5. He just kind of gives up home runs against the Mets, 6 home runs in those 24 innings against the Mets. So whatever, I mean, a lot of it probably had to do because it playing in Cincinnati for most of it too. And that's just like the easiest place to hit a home run really.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mets have Castillo's number a little bit. And Mark Vientos, our guy, Marky V, knocking Castillo out with another bomb to right center field, which the power there is the power of Vientos we've always known is so legit, so true. It's just about consistently getting it, but being able to hit it out there like John texts us just doesn't really happen too much. You don't see a lot of guys doing that.
No, and that he said 4 home runs this year with the Mets. The first one, that one against the Rays, was just barely on the pull side of center field for him. And all 3 of his other ones were all basically in that exact same power alley in right center field. This home run traveled projected distance of 438 feet, which is the 10th longest home run hit by a Met this season, which that's pretty cool for a guy like Mark Vientos, especially off a pitcher like Luis Castillo. And now he has home runs this year off of Aroldis Chapman, Luis Castillo, a double off Felix Bautista. It's like, all right, well, maybe just needs to like step up when the real pitchers are on the mound. That's how Mark Vientos is going to start getting hot here. And then after they made the pitching change, Francisco Lindor put one right down the line, right where we've been sitting the last couple games. So it'd been nice if we could have been sitting there for that home run, getting the spot on TV. But just banged off the foul pole, cut the lead to 1, and this was suddenly a pretty exciting baseball game.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was really nice to see because, like, we're flipping between college football and the Mets, and all of a sudden on the Mets, we're like, oh, this game is completely back because, so we know Grant Hartwig came out for a second inning, kind of got in some trouble, some runs came in, the lead got a little bit bigger than we would have liked. I think, like you said, it got to 7-4, but then that Lindor home run tied it up, and then McNeil as well with that triple late in the game. I mean, how does that ball not get out of the park? I mean, Jeff was, what's the right word? But like, I can't think of it. I can't think of the word, but he got it today. He got it today with the home run. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about?
I can't even comprehend what you're thinking of. Angry, upset. These are just Jeff McNeil
No,
words when
it's
things
almost
don't go.
like he got repaid. Like they gave it back to him. He was redeemed.
Yeah,
Redeemed. That's the
redeemed.
word.
There it
Yeah,
is.
he got redemption in game 3. But can't believe that ball didn't go out still. Good to see Jeff swinging the bat, though, swinging for a little bit more power as well.
Definitely. And another multi-hit game with the home run, like you mentioned on Sunday. Also 3 hard hit balls on Sunday. Just got that OPS way over 800 since August 1st. WRC plus over 120. It's the Jeff McNeil that we've all come to know and expect. And it's nice to see him again. Like, very big deal for these guys. We see how big competitors they are. We see how much emotion is still in every single game. Just getting hot to end the season, a guy like Jeff McNeil, it changes so much of what happens going into next year when you can end the season feeling like the player that you know you are. And that was a good moment. Right after that, though, sadly, JP Crawford hit a very big home run for the Mariners, give them the lead that they would hold on to the end of the game. Also, just want to get in the soapbox for JP Crawford real quick. He has become absolutely one of the most, I'll say, important players in baseball for any team in the league. Playing shortstop every day for his Mariners team, being a leader, being there for a long time. Kyle Seager talked about when he retired that as a guy who spends his whole career with that organization, that the next leader was JP Crawford. Like he was the guy.
He said that?
Yes, that he was the guy growing into that role.
Wow.
And you've seen a guy like Crawford who you kind of see guys who are top prospects sometimes. JP Crawford had a moment where he was number 1 overall prospect in baseball. And then they come
Phillies,
up to
right?
yes, and they come up to the major leagues and don't really excel right away or even at all. Sometimes you see that kind of be a burden on guys, and you see that almost work kind of productively for them where that prospect status hurts them. They feel the pressure, they fold under it, and they kind of just get taken up by a media storm and they never become the player everyone expects them to be. But right now, JP Crawford's got a 140 WRC plus. He has almost the same amount of walks as strikeouts. He has by far a career high 14 homers already with a power surge happening as he gets through September. Could be in line for his first 20 home run season where he never even hit 10 in a full season before. 270 average, 390 on base, 440 slug. And again, just being a steadying force for this Mariners team day in and day out, being in the lineup every single day, top of the order, hitting ahead of Julio Rodriguez. And the organization loves him. He says all the right things. He does all the right things. JP Crawford's a really good player and someone that I feel like you can all look around baseball and be like, that's one of the guys who makes the game great.
No, very, very solid baseball player, and took some impressive BP too when we were on the field for game 1.
Really impressive BP. Really wish I would have thought about that before the game began.
Yeah, no, didn't expect to see that honestly either, because I'd seen how good of a season he's been having, but I was like, he still doesn't really crush the baseball. Like he's still just he's still good. There's no doubt he's been a good player this year, but I was like, I'm just waiting for that. What makes him cool? He's a little boring, but he's been exactly what they needed. He's been great this year.
Yeah, and he's a guy who takes his own development into his own hands. He spent the last couple off seasons at Driveline. He's talked about using weighted bats to make just getting his power up. And when it happens like this, and you see it so starkly in the season, you're like, oh man, a lot of this development when guys use this advanced stuff and these training methods, it really, really works.
Yeah, data and science. It's always good to have more of that.
Yeah, it's great. And then move on to game 3, rubber game of this series. Felt like the good old days where the Mets won game 1, lost game 2. Yeah. We were on to a Sunday game 3 where you have a chance to put a team down. And I'll tell you guys again, Tylor Megill did some really encouraging things. He had just a crystal clean first 3 2/3 innings before
so clean.
Dominic Canzone. It was a Buckeye, go Bucks. Dominic Canzone, the big series here for the Mariners. One Buckeye had a good weekend at least. And Mike Ford, Princeton guy. So those are two of the most esteemed universities in the whole country, Ohio State and Princeton, going back to back for some home runs there.
A little different, I think, but
I think one in the same. You're right. Ohio State's probably a little bit better at sports, and Princeton might be a little bit better in the classroom. But I think
interesting spin.
I think we're splitting hairs, but Tylor then battled back through the 5th after, again, we talked about before, the very slick double play. One hot pick off a Julio bullet from Lindor, then Ronny with his seat to first. Got to the 6th inning, came out when Brooks Raley came in to face a lefty, but 5 1/3, 5 hits, 3 earned, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, and 16 whiffs. Tied Tylor Megill's season high. Very encouraging.
Very encouraging. And you see with him, there clearly is a point in the game where all of a sudden things get a little bit tougher, and him being able to get through that, when he gave up those home runs to Canzone and Ford, I was like, oh boy, here we go. This is about to go south really quickly. I thought it was just kind of snowballing and an avalanche was about to happen, but he battled through it. And like you said, to get that 5 1/3, to get those 16 whiffs, he was throwing 96, I think, pretty consistently in this game. When you talked about it last episode, how important it is for him to essentially be throwing 96 with that fastball completely changes his outlook as a pitcher. All stuff that is really, really encouraging signs for Tylor Megill, who without a doubt struggled this year at points.
Yes, and something else Tylor Megill did in this game that we talked about his last start in the Rangers series, where the velocity did dip after about 65 or 70 pitches, and you saw the Mariners really taking some hacks when that happened through the 4th and 5th innings. But then his last 3 fastballs of the game were 3 of his 4 hardest of the entire game. And he was able to rear back and get those important outs in the 6th inning when his pitch count was climbing. that's a really cool thing with Tylor Megill, a guy we talked about last time. So much of what he does effectiveness-wise is going to be based on his velocity. And the fact that he can rear back and find that velocity when things got tight and things got tough is cool, because especially in this game, fastballs and sliders made up over 80% of all the pitches he threw, which is kind of where he usually sits, but there was a little bit more of a slider lean in this game. The fastball velocity overall was over 95 again. That's now every single start since he came back from AAA. His average fastball velocity has been over 95 miles an hour, and he got 7 whiffs. But the slider came in much harder than it has most starts this year. He's been throwing it harder with a little bit less drop his last couple of starts. I think that's been a big adjustment for him, because now in 2 of those last 3 starts, where the slider velocity has ticked up a few miles an hour, it's gotten 8 whiffs. The slider alone has gotten 8 whiffs, and those 2 for his most whiffs he's gotten with the slider in any start this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, and the Mets chased George Kirby out of the game too, which helped. Like, the offense just kind of kept going this entire game. George Kirby, arguably one of the worst starts he's made of the year, someone who's been so great this season.
Yeah, he also probably might be a little hurt. He was pushed back,
Oh.
and then his velocity really tailed off as this game went on. And he's a guy who's been one of the most impressive pitchers in the entire American League, but just didn't really look like he had everything he always has today. Still didn't walk anybody, because George Kirby just doesn't walk people ever. That's kind of his whole thing. It's pretty amazing. He almost would probably do a little bit better with just like walking a couple more guys, but no, I'm not gonna tell George Kirby how to pitch. He still does great. The results are incredible, but we did chase him early, and a big reason for that was Pete Alonso drove Francisco Lindor in the first inning, and then hit his 40th home run of the year a few innings later, and he also had a second home run in this game. So after this game, he's at 4 homers, 100 RBIs. He's now the 5th player in baseball history to ever hit 40 home runs 3 times in the first 5 years, joining Ryan Howard, Albert Pujols, Ralph Kiner, and Eddie Matthews. Oh, and one of those 5 years for Pete, it was only a 60-game shortened season due to the pandemic. So Pete's really only had 4 years to do this. And the one time he didn't do it, it was 37 home runs. He was right there, sniffed it.
Yeah, and he was on pace with all those guys too, as well, of like keeping up with like just the home run counting numbers as well. Like, I think Pete's at like 180, somewhere in the 180s.
Like 188,
Yeah.
187.
And I want to say like Pujols was at like 220 something. And that was with a full year where Pete Alonso missed because the COVID year. So like, he's on track to be one of the better home run hitters we've seen just in baseball in general. Like, he will go down as a historic home run hitter. Everyone remembers how good Ryan Howard was, and like his career was a little bit shorter than like some of the great home run hitters, but prolific power, continues to show it. Just such a stud. So happy he's on the Mets every single time. Like, what a great guy. What an awesome player to have.
Ridiculous. And even just to talk about context of the Mets history, because the Mets are not an organization that's really been known for power hitters, and just talking about how rare a guy like Pete Alonso probably is, his 340 home run season ties every single Met ever for 40 home run seasons. Only 4 ever. It was a Beltran season, a Darryl season, and I think the famous Todd Hundley season, I believe, are the other 3 40 home run seasons in Mets history. So just to show you guys how incredible Pete is in historical context, how far ahead of almost every other player who's ever played this game, as well as every other player who's ever put on the Met jersey, how good Pete Alonso is. And it's just, seems like a great guy to have around.
Oh, 100%. Super happy he's on my team and not anybody else's team. And I hope he's around for a long time. And then talking about the rest of this game here, Dominic Leone, thank God we scored a run off of him. I just needed that for my soul. He like evaded us with the Angels. He hasn't left the city of New York in seemingly a month, it seems like, with the Angels being there. And then he gets cut and he gets sent to the Mariners now. But I'm glad that my boy Jeff, friend of the podcast, was able to put one out against Dominic Leone. Really made me smile for a couple different reasons.
Yeah, definitely. And shout out Brooks Raley in this game. So we mentioned Tylor Megill coming out for a lefty. Brooks Raley came in after his worst outing of the year and got 5 outs on 21 pitches. Really good. Trevor Gott has been warming up every single night. He had a clean inning, and then Adam Ottavino nailed down the save. And another win for the Mets. Also, shout out Brett Beatty. 2 hard hit balls. 1 hit to show for it, but no one quit on Brett Beatty.
And a phenomenal play at third base
on
Julio Rodriguez, one of the fastest players in the league. A little slow chopper, bare hand play, throw, got him out. Julio was shocked. He turned around and was like, whoa. It's a pretty impressive play. Like, to throw me out, I'm so fast. That must have done something. He's got a great arm, Brett Beatty, at third base. Super strong arm. Glad to see that he was making the plays out in the field. And also shout out Ronny Mauricio, stealing bases as well. Got 2 stolen bases in this series. And he also continued to hit. Just keeps on hitting. He was 1 for 4 in this game, but he started off, I think, like 4 for 5 after game 2, and I think 5 for 6 going into the game 3. So Ronny Mauricio, that dude can hit. Just saying, he's pretty good.
Yeah, and also pretty fun. Like every team in baseball at every single level, you're like, oh, the bottom of the order is the bottom of the order. But looking at the bottom of the order, been like, oh, Mauricio Beatty Alvarez. Okay, that's fun. I like that. Yes. All 3 of them got a knock on Sunday.
Hell yeah, love to hear that. Good win for the Mets. And of course, you guys know when the Mets win a series, who won the estimate, James? It was Julio Rodriguez hits. And how many did he get?
You got 3, I guess 4. Mark guessed 1, so that's another victory for me. Just tacking one on, took the lead again. And also, I believe, have a winner for the DJ Stewart contest, right? That we ran on
Yes,
Twitter
we
last week.
do. Yes, and his name was. Oh man, where did I put it? Did I click off of his Twitter? Oh, here it is. Okay.
Mystic.
Yeah, it is at baseball_mystic. Seems to be really interested in the Mets giveaways, and he got this one as close as possible. There was a couple 108.3s in there, but DJ Stewart hit the ball 108.8 miles an hour, and the Baseball Mystic guessed 109.2. So just ever so slightly closer. It was a 0.1 difference here. So the Baseball Mystic will reach out to you on our Twitter to get all your information and get you that DJ Stewart ball. For this estimate, of course, John is not here with us, so he can't brag about his bet win against James, but he did send us an estimate, and of course, it makes a lot of sense. Ronny Mauricio, it's a 2-game series against the Nationals. What's the hardest hit ball Ronnie's going to have?
Oh, man. Has anyone ever hit the ball 137 miles an hour?
Well, who's he going up against pitching-wise? Because that might change how I feel, too. Like, if we get Trevor Williams, we might see a little something special from Ronnie.
Also, only a 2-game series, so keep that in mind. It's going to be probably only 8-9 at bats for Ronny Mauricio, 8-9 shots to get this. So
okay,
the pitching matchups for the Mets in this series, as they are on ESPN right now. Okay, we're going to be facing. Okay, this is interesting. 2 lefties, Jose Quintana versus Mackenzie Gore, and then Wednesday is an open spot for the Mets. It's a good chance that could be what Jose Budo's been saved for. Maybe a piggyback with Carlos Carrasco versus Patrick Corbin.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
We didn't see him.
We
Take
know
that
he can
many
hit it
Randy
117 miles an hour. Yeah.
Huh. All right.
Oh, man,
Thinking.
I got a number. I don't have my whiteboard, but I got a number.
I'm gonna write it down for a second. Also, if there's no batted ball by Ronny Mauricio, it's null and void.
Correct. Saying. Yes, I think we'll say in a 2-game series, it's null and void.
Yes.
So as you're writing down your number, I'm thinking where I'm going, and I like where my head's at. The guy hits the ball so hard. And again, it doesn't have to be for a hit. Just he could hit it 125 miles an hour into the ground. That's the hardest hit ball of the series for him. So
yes,
James, got my number. You got your number?
Yes,
I got my number too. Ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, go. 112.3 miles an hour.
So
108.9.
108.9. All right.
Okay.
That.
We'll see. Yeah. Those are both hard hit baseballs. We know we can do it.
Yeah. I don't know, I feel like just seeing how comfortable he was lefty. I'm assuming he can't be that comfortable righty. Maybe he's more comfortable righty. I don't really know, but just 2 lefty starters. I went a little low. We'll see what he gets.
Well, we do know, though, the ball flies a little bit in Washington, especially as we get a little bit later into the summer. And we know it's going to be a hot week, at least in New York. I don't know what it's going to be like in Washington, D.C., but can't be that different. It's not that far away.
It can't be much cooler either. I just think it's going to be hot and humid all over the place this week. But the Mets do have an off day Monday, heading down there for the series beginning on Tuesday. Quick little 2-game series. I feel like the Mets always find themselves in Washington this time of year. We know the series that crushed all of us, broke all of our hearts, but always a little something this time of year. And then we're sticking with the American League next week and going to Minnesota for one of the most obscure series I've ever seen the Mets play in Minnesota, September 8th, 9th, and 10th. But I told you the pitching matchups.
Did you catch the Twins signed, by the way?
Yeah, your boy, former National, Andrew Stevenson.
Your boy too. Everybody's boy, Andrew Stevenson.
Megill, famous Megill. But we know this Nationals team has been a thorn in our sides all year. We also know we're incredibly close in standings, this Nationals team. So it would just feel nice to beat them a few times and just be clear of them and not have to think about, coming in last place. But I digress. They're still a very fun team. CJ Abrams has been a hot hitter this year, but can you hear that stuff in the background?
No, you're fine. I mean, like you can hear it, but you're fine. You're good.
All right, just the streets of Brooklyn making some noise, whatever. CJ Abrams had a very good year, especially relative to what people expected. He's been a little cold recently, but he's been picked up by the man hitting second in that order, Lane Thomas.
You just have nonstop sirens it's the end of the podcast, so you can do it. You work through it. This is adversity. This will make you a better podcaster.
It's a holiday weekend in Europe. The streets are active right now. There's music going on. There's bachata below my window. There's a siren coming down, blaring down the street. There's a lot going on. But Nationals, they're pesky. They put the ball in play. Mackenzie Gore, he is much better against the Mets than basically every other team in the league. Patrick Corbin is not so good against any team in the league. There's another guy that Pete Alonso takes advantage of, so hopefully we can get to like 43, 44 home runs by the end of the series. It's really all we got in them. They just got smoked in the series against the Marlins, got the Marlins hot for the first time in a while. I'm struggling in the fantasy playoff matchup. I had to start Kyle Finnegan because my Felix Bautista and Nick Pivetta got moved to the bullpen, and Cutter Crawford is facing the Astros this week. He did not have a very good week for me after having a very good month. So I don't know if I'm going to start next week against the Mets. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm really racking my brain about it. I'm not excited to make that decision.
Yeah, some other names to keep an eye out for. Travis Blankenhorn. He's with the Nationals, former Met. Travis Blankenhorn, how old is he?
29.
26. He's younger than
Wow.
us.
All right, let's hang out with Travis. I'll hang out with Travis.
Couldn't have guessed any. Give me a million guesses. I'd never think he was younger than us, but I guess we're just getting old. Maybe that's where we're trying to learn here. But Travis Blankenhorn, and then former top prospect as well, back up with them as the roster's expanded. Carter Kieboom, and he's actually been playing decently well. Someone to keep an eye out for too, because I think he's pretty much playing third base every day now.
Yeah, he is. He actually is kind of weirdly finding it again. He's also, imagine this, he's also 26 years old.
Yeah.
Same age.
I that one made more sense. So that one I wasn't as surprised about. But yeah, Keibert Ruiz has been great. Lane Thomas, you guys know we've seen the Nationals enough. There's not too much to talk about with them, right? I mean, I think that's a good place for us to probably just say enough of the Nationals talk. Let's wrap this one up here.
Yeah, I think this is also Joey Baseball, Joey Meneses, also had a very good second half, really affirming himself as a Major League ball player.
There you go. Good for you, Joey Meneses, a guy that we dogged big time when we were on our way to Washington last year. We're like, who is playing first base? He's ended up being a pretty good ball player.
What a massive regret that trip turned out to be.
Oh, yeah, big time. All right. Well, anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening and watching this episode of the Mets'd Up podcast. Remember to follow us on all our social media at Mets'd Up on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Again, we're going to have a Kodai Senga interview coming out this week, as well as DJ Stewart is already on the New York Mets YouTube channel, as well as our feed. So make sure you're subscribed over there so you don't miss out on that. If you're listening, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Odyssey, drop us a rating, drop us a review. We do appreciate you guys doing that. Follow James on Twitter at
James_Shiano.
And me, Giraffe Neck Mark with a C. Thank you guys for listening and watching, and we'll catch you after the very, very short Washington National series. Peace out.
Peace out. See you guys next time.